So let's get a little interactive. Raise your hand if you have someone in your life that you would do anything for. I'm talking about like anything. Like there's a situation where maybe you can put those hands down. I get it. So people are like, I really would. The situation where like, man, somebody's coming home from the airport like 2:30 and you're like already sleeping and they had another ride, but then they call you up at 2:45 because they already landed, and then you're like, all right, let's do this. I'll go. One of those people, like someone that you would really do anything for. And then there's those other people. You know those people that you like would do like a couple things for? You know what I'm talking about. Like everybody, you're laughing because you know that you have probably more of those people in your life than you have the people that you would do anything for. We all have those kind of situations in our lives. There's just some people that we would literally give the shirt off our back, do whatever we had to do. You need an arm, take it, I have another one, whatever. We have those people. And then you have those other people that are like, enough already, you know what I mean? You asked me a couple things last week, I'm good. See, we tend to serve people conditionally. The people we love the most, we serve the best. And today I want to challenge every one of your thinking. That it's not about how much I love somebody that determines how I should serve them. It's not about how much I like somebody, because there's people that even I don't like. Well, that's not really, I really like almost everybody. But there's like a couple people. But it's not a conditional thing, because serving is not actually something we do. It's something that we are. And I think too many times, even Christians, we look at serving as just a task. Like, I need you to help. I need you to serve. I need you to help serve. I need you to. But it's not just a task. It's not just like, hey, here's this thing that I need you to accomplish for me. Serving should be who we are, because it's not about who you love. It's about who you love. It's not about this as much as it is about this, because the face on the person shouldn't really matter. It should be, I'm seeing that face. So if I'm seeing that face, then I'm good. I'm willing to serve you no matter who you are. I think serving opens the doorway for us to show God's love to the world. I think if there was more serving in the world, if there was more you first attitude as opposed to me first attitude, I think our entire nation, our entire universe, world would be in a better situation. It's become about here as opposed to here. Serving is a matter of, speaking of here, serving is a matter of here. It's a matter of your heart. It's a matter of what's inside of you. It's not necessarily a matter of your surroundings. So many times we take a look at, where am I right now? I'm only in school. I'm only in college. I'm not going to serve people here. I'm not at church. I serve at church. But this isn't going to be your typical, like, I need you to volunteer for me sermon. Because serving goes way beyond just, I need you to put a shirt on. I need you to wear a name tag. I need you to be in the parking lot. I need you to be an AV. Serving goes way beyond that. And I want to challenge our perspective and our mindset today to understand that very thing. Because I think if we could change our mindset on serving, it'll change our outward action of serving. So allow me to share a couple things that I think you could do to flip your serving switch. Isn't this the coolest prop of all time, by the way? It's amazing. I want to flip your serving switch on today. So the first thing that I know is that serving allows you to experience miracles. Serving allows you to experience miracles. So you go to the book of 2 Kings, there's a gent named Elisha. Now, that's Elisha, not Elijah. Everybody say Elisha. Come on, one more time. Elisha. All right, you're ready. You got the right guy. So this guy's a picture of what a great servant is. And again, you read it, 2 Kings chapter 2, is where you see a lot of his story with him and Elijah, who was his mentor. And Elijah was an amazing prophet, like the guy at the time. And Elisha's like, I'm going to cling on to this guy. You know those people? You're like, I'm going to cling on to this guy. And we could see that he was a great servant because Elisha had those principles. He had those characteristics, and he was loyal. He was faithful. He was by Elijah's side the entire time. Elisha was a faithful guy. And we know that because there's 3 times in that passage where Elijah, the prophet, tells Elisha, stay here. God told me to go somewhere. I think it was Bethel, Jericho, and the Jordan River. And Elijah, stay here. But Elijah's like, nah, dude, I'm coming with you. There's no way. I've come here. I've been around you, so I'm not staying here. Well, you go ahead and do all the stuff for God. I'm going with you. Check this out, though. This is interesting. I've never really seen this in this passage. At each stop, Bethel, Jericho, Jordan River, at least on the way there or at each stop, there's a group of prophets, more than likely respectable people in the town, that come up to Elisha. Notice they don't go to the head guy. They go to the other guy. And they say, hey, why are you following a guy? You know God is about to take him back to heaven, right? Because the story of Elijah is where God just takes him right back up to heaven. It'd be kind of cool, right? All of a sudden, I'm just like, see you later. Someone else preach. They're like, why are you following this guy? Almost as if like, why are you bothering? Why are you wasting your time with someone that's going to leave you anyway? That God's just going to take from you. Side note, hold on to this fact that there's always going to be people who try to dissuade you from your purpose. Elisha knew what he had to do, and he knew where he had to go, and he knew who he had to go and do it with. And there was a group of people, again, probably respectable people, that still came alongside him and said, don't you think you're wasting your time with this guy who's going to heaven in like 20 minutes? And there could be people in your life, family, friends, bosses, employee, whoever, coworkers. So, why are you wasting your time? Why do you serve at church on Sunday? You mean you go early? You're there before you have to be there to a church service? And you stay late? Who stays late? That's weird. Why are you wasting your time? And there are people that will continually try to get you off of your path, off of your focus. But read the rest of the story. When they get to the Jordan River, this is the 3rd stop, the 3rd time after Elisha said, no, I'm going with you, Elijah. They get to the Jordan River. Elijah the prophet takes off his cloak. I'm just kidding. He takes off his cloak, and it says from a distance, he slaps the water. And all of a sudden, the river parts, and the Bible says he and Elisha walk through on dry ground. Here's the point. If Elisha would have said, if he would have listened to the other people, if Elisha would have said, you know what, maybe you're right, that maybe this isn't my or if he would have been a lazy servant, if his switch would have been, it's a serious switch, if his switch would have been down, he would have never witnessed the miracle. Elisha had a decision to make. I could stay or I could go. He went. And he experienced, the only reason Elisha experienced that miracle was because he was around the guy who was about to perform the miracle. See, here's the other thing that you have to recognize is that it's not always about who performs the miracle. You might not always be the person that performs the miracle. But if you're around the miracle, to me, that's cool. To me, that's good enough. But here's the thing, you're never going to witness the miracle if you're sitting on the sidelines. You need to abandon the stands. You need to get in the game. You need to not give up. You need to serve with everything that you have. If Elijah would have been a half-hearted servant, some of you thought I was going to say something else, you sinners, man. If he was a half-hearted servant, if he would have said, I've gone this far, this is pretty good. I got Elijah where he needed to go. He can go do whatever he's got to do with the Jordan River, take a bath, swim. If he never would have been around the miracle. Remember that when you give everything to serving Jesus, you too will walk through on dry ground. So you could either stare at a river, or you can give everything to Jesus and be around somebody who's going to. Now, you never know. You could become the person that's going to do the miracle too. How cool is that? But to me, it doesn't matter. The miracle gets done. The miracle gets done. God gets the glory anyway. So if I'm going to be there, I might as well be there, or I'll do it. Whatever you want me to do. But you can't do it while sitting on the sidelines. See, the question is, are you like Elisha, where you're serving with excellence and persistence, or are you not? And you're sitting back and you're maybe partially serving the people that are around you in life, the people that God has put into your life, maybe your church family. Or are you going at it? Are you being loyal? Are you being faithful? And I think maybe the problem for all of us is that, man, so many people are like, man, I need my miracle. Maybe we'd be walking through more rivers on dry ground if we were serving a little more. If we were serving a little more with our whole hearts. If you were here early with our prayer team praying. If you were here serving our kids' ministry. If you're at home serving your husband who might not care as much as you care about your marriage. If you were serving, we might be walking through more dry ground. I think the question is the reason that I'm not walking through more miracles, if I'm not experiencing them, if I'm not around them, is it because maybe I got to look at how I'm serving, what my attitude is? And I think serving doesn't only allow you to experience miracles, but serving gets you to your dreams. Serving gets you to your dreams. I'll look at one other guy, one other servant in the Bible. His name's Joseph. Everybody say Joe. Soph. Not to be confused. Okay, I'm just kidding. There's no like Moseph or anything. So Joseph, his story, you read it in Genesis, starting chapter 37, right? So you can go there, and when you get home, you read that, and over lunch today, whatever you want to do. But my dude had a dream that he would become a king or a ruler of some sort, a leader, right? Where his brothers, his family would bow to him. And his brothers actually hated him already. So imagine then at that family dinner where he's like, check this dream out. How do you think they felt now, right? Like, hey, you guys are going to bow to me one day. His brothers hated that too. So now their hate was like here, now it's like 2.0. So long story short, though, Joseph serves his father and brothers anyway. So he could have said, man, they don't even need me. They don't care about me. I'm just over here doing my thing. They're out doing whatever they're doing. They don't even like me. But he served them anyway. Side note, you're not always going to like the people around you that you've been called to serve. Now, if you're called to serve at Church Unleashed, you're going to love everybody. I mean, look at us, the pastor staff. I mean, we're just so awesome. But you might not like your coworkers, but you can still get them some water. You can still hold the door for somebody. You might not even like your own family. You can maybe help somebody make their bed. You could do some dishes. You can all the parents are like, teenagers, you listening? I'm not a teenager anymore, it's fine. But you're not always going to like everybody. Remember, serving is not supposed to be conditional. This switch is not like, oh man, when I feel like it, I don't really like those people. Those people, I like them, and we're in church. Switch is on. It's not supposed to be conditional. Serving's not supposed to have a switch with it. But back to Joseph, really, really, really long story short, right? He goes through a lot of terrible things. Anybody been through terrible things? He goes through terrible things, beginning with his brothers selling him into slavery, which, by the way, was God's protection in his life. He could have been killed, but he wasn't. Preserving his dream. So many times we look at something that God does for us, we don't see the protection. We see oh man, God, that's not what I prayed for at first. But God's protecting. Then he gets sold again. Then he gets accused of rape. Then he gets thrown in prison. All the while serving whoever he was around, wherever he was, with excellence. Eventually, because of his faithfulness, his integrity, Joseph knew who he was. He knew he was a servant of God first, not of man, not of people. He served with excellence. He serves with integrity. He serves with faithfulness. All of a sudden, he finds himself telling Pharaoh his dreams and doing all this stuff. Pharaoh makes him second in charge, ruler of Egypt, dream fulfilled. Joseph's dream never would have been fulfilled. He got the dream from God. So many of us have a God dream. But we stop serving along the way because we get sold into slavery. We get accused. Well, maybe, hopefully not. But we get all sidetracked. We get all these different things. 13 years Joseph put up with all this junk. 13. Some of you are like, man, I'm going through it for 40. His name is, I'm just kidding. 14 of you got that. The rest on the way out. You can be like, oh, he was talking about you. So I know for a fact there's people in here with dreams. There's people in here who have been in Joseph's shoes before. Man, I have this dream from God. But it's been so tough. It's been so difficult. When you serve your heart out, when you give everything you have to God, eventually he will get you there. Sometimes you don't get there right away because you can't handle it right away. I couldn't handle this right away. I needed training. I needed God to do a lot of different things in my life. When I was sick, I didn't get a healing right away. Pastors don't just get healings right away because we're pastors. We have a title. Sometimes you got to go through situations so you could become better on the other side. I couldn't have learned persistence the way I learned it unless I was in the hospital a bunch of times. I couldn't have learned that. I couldn't have learned all different things. Sometimes we look at it as, God, why didn't you answer my prayer? Instead of, God, thank you so much for answering it that way. Thank you so much for preparing me. Do you think Joseph, here's another interesting question I was thinking about. Do you think Joseph would have, if God gave him the choice, the opportunity to choose, 13 years before he becomes, when he was 17 years old, you think Joseph would have chosen the path that God set out for him? He wouldn't have chosen it, but he wouldn't have gotten his dream fulfilled. He would have chosen, anybody would choose the easier path. God, just get me next to the Pharaoh now. You know what I mean? Like, I put in my time, I did my thing. I'm good, I pray twice a day. Every time I brush my teeth, I pray. Every time I eat dinner, I pray. I watch Joel Osteen on whatever I listen to him on the radio. But sometimes you got to go through it to get to it. Here's the big one. I love this right here. I want to drill in this for a second. Serving makes you more like Jesus. In fact, you can even take more out. Serving makes you like Jesus. John chapter 13. Jesus, everyone knows the story. Jesus is washing the feet of the disciples. If maybe you're new to the church, you don't know the story, but Jesus is washing his disciples' feet at that Last Supper, and he gets up, and he takes his robe off, puts a towel around his waist, and he washes his disciples' feet. Another interesting thing from this, which actually my wife pointed out to me, she's like, hey, what about this? So understand this. In those times, servants never wore an outer layer. This is interesting. Jesus got up and took his outer layer off. So many times we read the story, we think, oh, you know what, he just needed room to put the towel, or it would have just gotten in the way, the robe, or maybe Jesus wanted to give his disciples the whole picture.
Yo, Church Unleashed. I hope you're enjoying the message, which I know you are. It's freaking phenomenal. Yeah, I said it. Freaking phenomenal. Yeah. So today, I just want to interrupt the sermon a little bit and tell you about something that I feel deep down in my heart. We all know the one way to heaven is Jesus. But what could get you more blessings in heaven? More opportunities in heaven? Well, I want to tell you. First, subscribe. Second, comment. Third, like. Fourth, post notifications. And fifth, get on that IG and follow at CU Long Island. And as you could probably tell, I'm completely joking, and that's not gonna get you anything in the heavenly realms. But we do appreciate it, and we love when we get new subscribers, more likes, and comments. So please do that. So without further ado, back to the sermon. Hope you enjoy.
This is what serving looks like. See, in that time, servants only wore their whatever first layer. They didn't have a robe. They didn't have an outer garment. Maybe Jesus was saying, I want to look like a servant and act like a servant. Maybe Jesus knew that his disciples were kind of stubborn. They were human beings. They were men. Sorry, guys. Although you can't spell amen without men. Just throwing that out there. So where's this sermon going? Okay. Maybe Jesus knew, though, that they needed another illustration. Like he had to go to the next level. So Jesus wasn't just hot and like, oh, let me take my robe. This was, I think he wanted them to see in deed and in appearance what it was like to be a servant. So he gets down and he says, verse 15, this proves it. I have given you an example to follow. Do as I have done to you. That's the whole picture. He said, look like a servant. Apostle Paul eventually writes in Acts or one of those books, I will become all things to all people so that I may save some. And I think sometimes we need to become, we need to look like. Now, I'm not saying you need to go and like sin with people, or I'm not giving you that license. Don't do that. Pastor Todd does counseling. But sometimes you need to get around people. Sometimes you need to literally become like a servant. Sometimes it's more even just for us than it is for anybody else. So I need to remind myself when I look in the mirror, I look like a servant. See, when you take that, when you serve, you're removing your outer layer of I'm too proud to get down and do this. And you're showing off your inner humble layer, your humility layer, saying, you know what, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. I know what God thinks. I'm following the example that Jesus already gave me. See, when you serve, you look like Jesus. And according to this passage, sometimes you look like him even more than you think you do. You literally look like Jesus. And if you're one of those people, by the way, who thinks that serving lowers yourself to the point where you're removing authority from your life, I want to challenge you. Because in this scripture, Jesus is actually serving because of his authority, not abdicating his authority. Jesus is serving, it says so in the Bible. There's a word in there that says so. So he washed his disciples' feet. That means, because verse before that talks about Jesus' authority. So he got down to wash the disciples' feet. Not in spite of. So if you think that you have to, you're going to be less than, the last shall be first, and all, you have all these other different verses that you can go to. That one might not be the best. But there's another one in there. But you think that sometimes you have to just, man, if I serve that person, though, they're technically, I'm their supervisor, though. I can't. You know what kind of an example that shows when you serve in your authority as opposed to abdicating it to serve? Man, I think serving actually gives us, and in fact, I think Jesus wanted to prove his authority by serving. He proved it. He didn't lessen it. He didn't weaken it. He proved it. In Matthew 20 and Mark 10, we learn that the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve. If we could make like a Church Unleashed verse out of that, it would kind of say, everyone here didn't come to church to be served, but to serve. There's like 4 people who are on our serving teams, like, yeah! Everyone else is like, ouch. It's interesting, though, like when I get to heaven, I don't want God to look at me and then, how come you didn't, get involved in that thing that I created you to be really good at? But, I didn't really think, that was for me. The other person, that they could have, how come you didn't serve, the people that I put, the friendship circle that you have, that only you had, that nobody else had in this world? I gave them to you so you could serve them. How come you didn't serve? Well, I didn't think I had to. I don't want that to be said of me. I want it to be, Matt didn't come to church. He didn't come to this world. He wasn't born to be served. He was born to serve. And by no means am I putting myself on Jesus' level. But I want to be like him. I want to look like him. I want to flip my switch on so I can see when you flip your serving switch on, you're really flipping your Jesus switch on. When you flip it off, you're saying, I don't need to look like Jesus right now. When your switch goes down, you're like, man, good. I'm good with not looking like Jesus right now. That's kind of what you're saying. When you put that switch up, every time you come to church, you're making a switch decision. Is my switch on or is my switch off? Am I serving? Anytime you're around anyone. I think today is the day to switch your decision on your switch decision. If you came into church and your switch is down, your switch is off, you're walking by all these guest relations people, parking team, venue control, all these people like, man, you guys do a great job. Thanks for preparing my seat. Shame on you. Hope I could say that. Because if Jesus didn't come to be served, why should I feel entitled to service? And I'm so thankful that I learned that from great parents, from great leaders, mentors in my life early, because now I feel like I'll do anything. I'll do whatever you need me to do. I've cleaned bathrooms before. I've wiped up. I've mopped things. I've done this. I've done that. Every Sunday I'm still serving little things nobody knows, whatever, it's fine. But you do that because it just becomes who you are. It doesn't become a thing that I do. It's not a task list that I check off. I want to make sure that I'm serving in the way that God has for me to serve. And then finally today, here's what's really cool about serving. Serving shows the world your love. Serving shows the world your love. Like I said before, I think if we had more serving, if we had more you mentality and less me mentality, the entire world would be a better place. Because if you continue on in the foot washing story, let's get back to Bible for 1 second. Jesus gives us a simple commandment in verse 34 and 35. He says, "So now I'm giving you a new commandment." Jesus made it so simple. He tells us that he's giving us something to follow. 3 words: love each other. Love each other. Everybody say that. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Love each other. And he goes on to say that just as I have loved you, you should love each other. So unpack that part of it for a second. Love each other just as Jesus did. How did Jesus love us? He served us. So if A plus B equals C, which it always does, that's why math is amazing. Math nerds. Math leads, Cary High School, class of 2003. 2003. A plus B equals C. If Jesus loved us by serving us, then we should serve each other. That's what we're getting out of this verse. We should serve each other. Then everybody will know that we love Jesus. It makes sense. When we sit on our hands and we flip our switch down, we're turning our light off. Nobody can see that I love Jesus when I stay home. Nobody can see that I love Jesus when somebody's coming into the supermarket, the restaurant, and I make sure the door closes instead of holding it open. Nobody sees I love Jesus. They see the opposite. I think, it's cool because on Monday we had the opportunity to go into Queens and Brooklyn and go to the Legacy Center with Pastor Jordan Durso and Out of Christ Tab, and they do an amazing work, and we're able to stock some shelves, make everything look all. What's amazing, by the way, is they serve with excellence. We had a bean can turned a little bit. They were like, we got to make sure it looks good. We want these people to come in here. Don't you dare think these people are just homeless people who need. These are people that we are serving with God's love. You turn that thing so it looks like they're walking into Stop and Shop. And I was like, you got it, Sister Carmen. And it proves, though. But then we went over to Maria Hernandez Park. That's Spanish for Maria Hernandez Park. And we went there, and we went and we served. And some of us gave out food and iced tea and water. Others of us walked around with backpacks and bags, and we gave to people. There are people that just sit in that park because they have nowhere else to sit. Be thankful you have somewhere to go and sit. But they sit in this park. And we went, man, hey, you need body wash? Like, all I have is kids, but I don't care, I'll take it. Do you need toothpaste? Do you need socks? We could have stayed home. It was a lot easier to stay. It was hot. It was far. I drove a van with 15 God-loving teenagers in it. I'm just kidding. I actually had a great time. Gina and I love that. But serving. Just kidding. I'm kidding. But we could have just said, Pastor Jordan, you got this. You guys do a great job. In fact, another church showed up. We could, you know what? They're here. We'll head out. You guys have enough help. But what we wanted to do is we wanted to show the world our love. What they do every day is they show that part of the world their love. And it doesn't always have to be an outreach like that. It could be what we do right here. This is a world that you can show your love to right here. When somebody walks in and you get greeted by the front door and someone's in the parking lot on a rainy day with an umbrella, we're showing you God's love. A couple more verses in here. This is like gut check, interesting. John 14, if you love me, obey my commandments. Another really simple one. John 14, 21. Those who accept my commandments and obey them are the ones who love me. John 14, 23. All who love me will do what I say. We make it so difficult sometimes when Jesus simply says, if you love me, you will obey me. And here's the thing. I don't want, if you're new, maybe you're new to the church, like, man, that sounds like a God who's kind of like, I don't know. God gives us the freedom to do whatever we want. but he also guides us in the direction that's best for our lives. So if we do this, if we obey God, if we show the world our love, if we look more like Jesus, if we flip our switch on, we're living our best life. So many times we put a lid on our own selves because we flip our switch down. And we don't allow ourselves, we don't allow God to show through us. Loving and serving go hand in hand. These verses beg the question, how can you love if you're not serving? And if you're not serving, how are you loving? I actually don't know if it's possible. I need to really sit down and look at this even more. I don't know if it's possible to say that you love people if you refuse to serve people. In fact, I'm going to make a statement that you might not like me for, but I'm going to make this statement. If you do not love God if you are not serving him or other people. That's a serious statement. But I think that if you're not willing to look like Jesus and to do for others what he did for you, do you really? I mean, it's right here in the verses. If you love me, obey my commandments. Those who accept my commandments and obey them are the ones who love me. So those verses are there not to give us rules, but to give us a way to show the world who we love. We love them and we love God, and we love them because we love God. So if you're here and you're a spouse, right? Are you serving your wife or your husband? Take a look at that today. Are you really serving your wife? Are you really serving when's the last time you just dedicated time to do something that you didn't want to do that they really wanted to do? Children, are you obeying your parents? When's the last time you did dishes before they asked you to do them? Come on, parents should be like standing, screaming. So don't stand. But who you serve shows who you love. And the more we serve others, the more we show that we love our God. And let me, as we close today, I want to pump you up. I had to get that in. I just had to do that. John 13:17 says this. This is where we're gonna finish. This is so good. Now that you know these things, God will bless you for doing them. It doesn't say now that you know these things, God will, or it doesn't say now that you know these things, go do them, or you should do them, or it is your purpose to do them. He says God will bless you for, he could have just said, go and do these things. But instead he said, God will bless you for doing them. To me, see, every time you read the word, it brings you to an action step. Every time you hear God's word, it brings you to a response, to a decision, to a choice that you need to make. Today is no different. You have a decision to make. Are you going to leave from here? Are you going to get around the miracles? Are you going to unlock your dreams? Are you going to look like Jesus? Are you going to show the world God's love? Understand this. Every decision you make leads you somewhere. Every decision you make, when you flip the switch off, you're putting the lid on your life. You're closing it off. You're putting a wall. You're putting the stone in front of the tunnel. You can't get through. You flip this up. Satan. That was Satan right there. You flip it up and you say yes to serving. Who knows where God's going to take you? I believe Church Unleashed, Pastors Todd and Mary, great examples of people who just serve their heart out and God has taken... Maybe I was saying something wrong. Maybe I said that was the wrong. They're great examples of when you serve your heart out, right? Church Unleashed, we go to places where this guy's on stage with Pastor Joel Osteen who reaches 40 gajillion people every. You don't do it for that reason. But God sees, and his promise is that he will bless you for doing those things. So I think sometimes we look at, you have the right to say no to any of those questions. You don't have to get around miracles. You don't have to experience any of that. You don't have to be blessed. You don't have to do anything. That's up to you. But if you want to unlock everything that God has for you in your life, you say yes to those questions. And God will take you somewhere you've never thought you could be before. Would you pray with me today?